Yo, what's up guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. Before we start, a subscribe is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to leave a like and ring the bell icon so you won't miss exciting new fanfiction stories. Tensura. Melting the Eternal Frost by JackDaWeb. Chapter 7, Turmoil in the West. Flashback to a few days after Walpurgis. Third-person POV. Within the kingdom of Falmouth, inside a meeting hall, the king and his nobles were currently discussing the three options presented to them by Diablo. They were stressing like hell since they'd only been given a week to make their decision. And it didn't help that all of the options more or less spelled a death sentence for Falmouth. Option 1 is to become a vassal state of Tempest, something the prideful nobles would never accept due to their pride. Option 2 is to pay war reparations worth a staggering 10,000 stellar gold coins to Tempest, and for King Edmalus to step down from his throne. And the last option is to continue the war, which is an absolute no-go considering the state of the nation's army. The room was in chaos, with everyone pointing fingers at each other, and no one but the king took any kind of responsibility. All the nobles agreed that option 1 was definitely out of the question because their arrogance wouldn't allow them to become a vassal state. Some of them wanted to go with option 2 since it was the safest choice, but a few idiots wanted to continue the war, saying that the reparation amount was too high. Their meeting was suddenly interrupted by two knights entering the room frantically. One of them was holding a scroll. "Please forgive our insolence. The guild has just made a very serious announcement," one of the knights said in distress. "Huh? Can't you guys see we're having an important discussion here?" a noble rebutted furiously. "You understand, but please hear out this announcement since the situation is extremely dire," the other knight pleaded. "Silence. Everyone, let them speak," the king commanded strongly. The knight unrolled the scroll and began reading out its contents. "The Chancellor of the Great Jura Forest and the leader of the Monster Nation has just declared himself a demon lord," he read aloud and paused for a moment. The nobles immediately had a look of relief on their faces, not fully understanding the situation. "Huh. Looks like their ruler made a dumb decision. The other demon lords won't stand for such insolence, and I'm sure one of them is going to eliminate him," one noble said optimistically. The other nobles nodded in agreement, and all sorts of similar comments were being thrown around before the knight continued. Following his declaration, the marionette master, Demon Lord Clayman, challenged him to a battle but was defeated, which meant that Rimuru Tempest now holds his position in their council. After that, the Beast Master, Carrion, and Sky Queen, Frey, renounced their positions and joined the ranks of Destroyer, Milam Nava. Because there are now only 8 of them, they've been aptly renamed into the Octagram, the 8-star Demon Lords, he continued. The room was thrown into chaos as the nobles became outraged and in disbelief at the news. "Oi! You can't be serious? That Clayman lost to the new and self-proclaimed Demon Lord?" one noble asked, horrified. Everyone in the room was now panicking as they fully began to grasp the gravity of the situation. They were now deeply regretting making an enemy out of Tempest, and they were about to learn just how screwed they really were. The knight had a look of true and utter despair on his face as he saw the last part of the announcement. "TTH, there's one more announcement," the knight uttered anxiously. The tension was higher than ever as everyone in the room stayed silent, waiting nervously for the knight to deliver the last piece of news. After the conclusion of Walpurgis, a new individual had joined Tempest and became one of the higher-ups. This person's entrance was publicized on the afternoon of that day. The individual in question is none other than the White Ice Dragon, Velzard. The knight concluded, terrified and barely able to get the words out. Silence. There was silence for what felt like an eternity. It looked as if time was frozen as the world stood still. No one said a word, but the look of dread and despair was written clearly on everyone's faces. The nobles had a myriad of different thoughts going through their mind. Some felt hopeless and began praying, others were in utter disbelief. A few were thinking of ways they could defect from Falmouth to save themselves. After some minutes, the king returned to his senses and gathered everyone's attention to resume their meeting. Flashback to the evening after Walpurgis. On top of a large mountain in the Holy Empire of Lubelios sat the Sacred Church of God. Entering the holy place as the leader of the 10 great saints, Hinata Sakaguchi. She just finished her daily patrol around the city and is now meeting up with her master, the Queen of Nightmares, Demon Lord Luminous Valentine. Upon entering the church, she was greeted by the Holy Emperor of Lubelios, the vampire Louis Valentine. She was curious as to where his twin, Roy Valentine, was, only to find out that he was killed on the night of Walpurgis by the intruder she scared off. Hinata was somewhat distraught since she let the perpetrator escape, leading to his death. But Louis told her not to dwell on it too much. After waiting in the outer sanctum of the church, their god had finally returned, the Queen of Nightmares, Luminous Valentine. Louis updated Luminous regarding the death of Roy, and she became upset that she wasn't around when he was killed. She would have been able to revive him if she was within the vicinity. Luminous then proceeded to tell them about the notable events that took place in the Walpurgis meeting. Particularly, the name change from the 10 great demon lords to the octagram, the stepping down of Carrion and Frey, and most importantly, the rise of the Soul Devourer, Rimuru Tempest. She also went on a rant about the appearance of the storm dragon, Veldora, which infuriated her to no end. She then promptly warned Hinata not to mess with Demon Lord Rimuru, as he was now on a completely different level. And to top it off, he had Veldora on his side. Still stubborn and ignorant as ever, Hinata boldly proclaimed that she would defeat the storm dragon only to get heavily reprimanded by her master. She let Hinata know of Rimuru's wish, which is to coexist with humanity, his nonviolent nature, and how he's someone who should be left alone at all costs. The Vampire Queen told Hinata to inform the rest of the 10 great saints. Back to the present. Hinata was now in a meeting with the other saints, informing them of their god's latest order. Initially, they were excited, thinking that they were about to storm into Tempest and wreak havoc in the Demon Lord's nation, but Hinata quickly shut them down. She informed them that their god, Luminous, had commanded them not to mess with Rimuru Tempest and that he must be left alone for now. Understandably, they found the order outrageous. They were in disbelief and thought that Hinata had gone insane. She retorted, informing them of Rimuru's recent growth in strength as well as the fact that the storm dragon was on his side. While this did somewhat worry them, they maintained their misplaced confidence as they were largely ignorant of the terrifying power of a true demon lord, let alone a true dragon. Hinata relayed what Luminous told her regarding Rimuru's wish of coexistence with humanity, but the saints were skeptical at best. Just then, one of their trusted informants entered the tent looking pale from fear. Pardon the intrusion. There is something I'd like to share with you all, he said in his best attempt at a calm voice. The saints all looked at each other confused due to the frightened state of the man. Pushing it aside, they urged him to proceed with his announcement. There has been a certain rumor spreading regarding a new member joining the higher-ups of Tempest. At first, I didn't believe it as I found the information too preposterous to even consider. However, the people would not stop talking about it and I eventually started asking around. It took a while and a bit of negotiating, but I got my hands on this. He explained in detail as he pulled out a crystal ball from his bag. He then placed it on the table for the 10 great saints to see clearly before continuing. It'll be impossible for you all to believe me if the information came out of my mouth, so it's best if you all just see this, he said nervously before playing the recording. Everyone now had their attention fixed on the crystal ball as the recording began playing. The video was from the perspective of someone in a large audience standing before a stage. Their eyes were glued to a particular person on the stage, a person with long platinum blue hair who was standing behind the podium in a dignified manner. They didn't immediately realize who he was, but once they did, they watched in awe as they got a glance of Demon Lord Rimuru Tempest himself in all his majesty. Some of the saints were quite surprised upon seeing him for the first time since they weren't expecting him to look the way he did. The aura he exuded was one of divinity, grace, and majesty. However, that isn't the main reason I called for this announcement. I gathered all of you here today to formally introduce you to a new member of the Tempest executives. She holds a very high position, I'd say arguably in equal standing to mine. I expect you all to show her the same level of respect that you show me, Rimuru said with full authority behind his voice. Hearing him speak for the first time had the saints pay closer attention. Their eyes shifted to the center of the stage and saw a beautiful woman with long white hair standing elegantly. Realizing who she might be, they became puzzled since the woman was supposedly the new member of the Tempest higher-ups. But contrary to their expectations, she seemed incredibly unassuming and gave off almost no aura whatsoever. Is that the person everyone was on about in those rumors? Sare asked in disbelief. I know, right? I wonder why this rumor even spread so much. She looks incredibly frail, Fritz commented bluntly. The others started throwing around similar remarks until Hinata grew annoyed. Silence. You people and your ignorance, the video hasn't even finished yet, she reprimanded. TCH. Whatever. Bacchus replied. Everyone, I'll now let the person in question introduce herself. Rimuru followed and the woman gracefully walked to the center of the stage. The saints were silently waiting for her to speak. She then closed her eyes and began releasing her immense, dragon spirit haki. The aura was strong enough to leak through the recording device and affect everyone watching. A shiver ran down their spine since they had never felt such a powerful aura in their life. And this was only coming through a crystal ball. The audience in the video dropped to their knees and the woman started speaking. Greetings, dear citizens of Tempest. It's a pleasure to meet you all. My name is Velzard, the White Ice Dragon. From this day onward, I will be residing in this nation and be the personal supervisor of your master, Rimuru Tempest. Velzard introduced herself with incredible power and authority behind every word. The recording came to an end and silence filled the room. No one could utter a word as cold sweat dripped from everyone's face. Hinata, the leader of the saints, was just as speechless as everyone else. She knew how serious the situation was when Luminous ordered them not to mess with Tempest in any way. However, this new revelation made it so that they couldn't mess with Tempest at all. Going against a true demon lord and the storm dragon is already a foolhardy endeavor, but the White Ice Dragon is a completely different story. Despite being the least active among the true dragons, her power is not to be questioned. Humanity already feared Veldora and recognized him as the incarnation of chaos and destruction. But even he is no match for Velzard. This news would shake the foundation of society and change the course of history forever. The normally dormant true dragon made her first big move in millennia and ensured that the whole world knew about it. In the eyes of the Western nations, Tempest had now become an even greater threat than the Eastern Empire. Hinata's paw of the silence was deafening. The words of the White Ice Dragon kept replaying in everyone's mind and I was no exception. If Rimuru Tempest really did evolve into a true demon lord, then me coming out victorious against him for a second time is out of the question. On top of that, the dreaded storm dragon is on his side, which makes things even worse since true dragons are beings beyond mortal comprehension. And now, the current strongest of the true dragons just declared her allegiance to Tempest. Everyone, I said loudly, getting the others' attention. Why yes, Hinata-sama? Fritz asked, still shaken by the video earlier. I've decided that I will go to Tempest in a few days and personally apologize to Rimuru Tempest. I declared nonchalantly. This caused an uproar among the saints. Oi! You can't be serious, Hinata-sa? Fritz asked in disbelief. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Lytus followed angrily. Have you gone mad? Sare questioned loudly. I raised my hand, which made them all shut up. Relax. From what our god said, Demon Lord Rimuru Tempest is a nonviolent individual who only wishes to coexist with humanity and use his immense power to create a peaceful life for him and his people. I explained. This didn't ease them much, however. Yeah, he might be a pacifist, sure, but you literally tried to kill him, Arno uttered strongly. Such a great idea, Hinata-sama. Go to the territory of the dude you tried and failed to kill. Sare remarked sarcastically while emphasizing my failure. Shut up, brat. There's no way in hell you could have done better. I snapped back and he rolled his eyes in response. I swear to God. It took quite a long time and a lot of convincing, but it was eventually decided that we would be going to Tempest. We were to show no hostility towards them whatsoever, and most importantly, I must apologize to him directly. The Holy Emperor, Pope Louis Valentine, suddenly made his appearance during our meeting, much to the surprise of the other saints. He told us that he agreed with my decision to go and personally apologize to Rimuru, which shocked everyone, and so began our journey to Tempest. Third-person POV. As the 10 great saints departed on their journey to the nation of monsters, the 7 celestial sages were frantically scrambling around as their plan got derailed before it could even begin. Initially, they planned to give Hinata a recording of a message from Rimuru Tempest requesting an audience with her, which they had tampered with. This would have caused a great misunderstanding between them, making Hinata battle against the Demon Lord, either resulting in her death by his hands or her getting weakened enough to where they could kill her themselves. However, the announcement of the White Ice Dragon's appearance in Tempest threw a monkey wrench into their plot. While they thought they could have gotten away with causing a ruckus in the country, Even with the storm dragon being there, Velzard's presence would immediately halt any funny business from happening. The risk was already high enough considering they were planning to stir up problems in a demon lord's territory. Flash forward to a few days. Business is going incredibly well as usual back in Tempest. The nation's economy is prospering more than ever as trade reaches an all-time high. Developments were being made in every sector of the country, from technological, cultural, and infrastructure improvements. But most importantly, thanks to Rimuru obtaining a true dragon seed, his people have grown drastically despite not evolving into a higher evolutionary stage. Rimuru had just finished his work for that day and was now going around the city, enjoying the stunning nightlife with his beautiful supervisor, Velzard. The two of them have become even closer to each other, to the point that rumors began spreading among the citizens of Tempest that both of them are in a romantic relationship. Of course, Rimuru and Velzard were absolutely clueless about these rumors and kept going on their usual hangouts around the city, which only added fuel to the fire. They've even been spotted going to the hot springs together on multiple occasions. Rimuru's pav man, it sure is nice to wind down every once in a while. I'm currently bathing in the hot spring with Velzard after a long day at work. I'm still surprised at how good of a supervisor she is. She helped me put together that recording I sent to Hinata and made sure I worded things just right to leave no room for any misunderstanding. The only way that'd occur is if the video in the crystal ball was tampered with. By the way, if you were wondering, I'm using my human form this time. After going with her here many times by now, I've gotten pretty comfortable bathing with her in my human form, much to her delight. "Ha! This is the life I've been missing out on," Velzard exclaimed happily. She then stretched her arms high, exposing her melons. I looked away as quickly as I could because I did not want to be labeled a pervert. "Era, you seem rather flustered, Rimu-kun." "Foo, it's okay if you look, you know?" she teased seductively. "This woman." I turned to face her and she immediately went and hugged my arm, squeezing it in between her breasts. I felt the softness of her body and the smoothness of her skin, which was drenched in the hot spring water. For a moment, I was entranced by the incredible sight that lay before me as my eyes began examining her body up and down. "Shit, Rimuru, control your horny thoughts." "Sigh, what are you doing, Velzard?" I asked with my best calm voice in an attempt to hide my embarrassment. I've also dropped the honorifics with her since she said she preferred if we called each other more casually. Foo. Whatever do you mean, Rimu-kun? You can't lie and tell me that you don't like this," she said playfully. "I swear to God." "Yeah, I won't lie, this feels nice. In fact, it feels great. But I am not admitting that out loud. I have a feeling she's doing this because she wants me to tease her back in the same way. Sooner or later, all this teasing and joking around is gonna escalate and no longer become a joke." Sigh. "You know what? Fuck it. There's a saying that goes, fight fire with fire." I pulled my arm away from Velzard and shifted my position to be in front of her. She became confused and flustered the next instant, which I took advantage of as I cupped the side of her face with my hand. I placed my other hand on her shoulder and gently pushed her against the rock. Velzard now became beet red and the steam coming off the water may as well have been coming from her right now. My, Velz-chan. You've become one extremely naughty dragon lately, haven't you? Have you forgotten that you're my supervisor? Last I checked, they weren't supposed to do something like this. I whispered as seductively as I could. I then parted her hair to the side and began nibbling on her ear. "Eep." She yelped and squirmed lightly in her place. Instead of pushing me back, she instead wrapped her arms behind me and held on gently, as if telling me to keep going. Shit. This is bad. I took it too far. I've awoken this succubus dragon. I activated thought acceleration to the maximum, which now boosted my thought processing speed by a factor of 10 million. I started running through different ways I could salvage the situation I'm currently in. Eventually, my inexperienced ass came up with a ridiculous solution that I'm not even sure will work. It might just make her hungrier, but it's better than nothing. "Oh, Rimuru. Where are you? I need the next volume of Jujutsu Kaisen now." I looked everywhere in the library and couldn't find it. Suddenly, by the grace of the gods, Veldora interrupted loudly through thought communication. If you told past me that I would be thankful for Veldora interrupting me in the future, I would have laughed in your face. But he really came in clutch. "Thank you so much, sworn brother. I can use this as a perfect chance to escape, but it honestly might just throw Veldora under the bus." Meh. I'm sure he'll be fine, if not then I'll make it up to him in the future. Ah, yes, Veldora, perfect timing, I'll be there shortly, hold on, I replied hastily. Ho. You're usually annoyed with me suddenly interrupting you. What happened, Rimuru? He asked confusedly. Nothing much. You just came in clutch. I'll be there in a few minutes, I lied through my teeth. Kuahahahahaha. Glad I could help, now come on, he demanded strongly. Heading there now, I said before closing the channel. I stopped nibbling on Velzard's ear and slowly backed away from her. She was closing her eyes in anticipation of my next move. After a few seconds, she opened them since I hadn't done anything. She looked at me with confusion and a sense of longing which was really cute. Ah. No, I will not fall for it. Not yet. Sorry, I went too far there, Velzard. It's getting pretty late now, and Veldora just called me for something urgent, I said softly. Velzard looked down and frowned slightly, which struck an arrow in my chest. Goddammit. Not wanting to see her like this, I moved closer and cupped her cheek again. Foo, we can always continue this another time if you'd like, Vels-chan. I teased, trying to imitate her signature laugh. She perked up at this and was about to chuckle, but then remembered she was supposed to be upset and looked away while pouting. Hey, cute. My lips then made contact with her cheek as I gave it a gentle peck. Her face immediately became beet red. I stood up and got out of the water, giving her space to breathe. Let's go home, Vels-chan. Today's been hectic and we both deserve some rest, I said as I manifested my clothes back on. Velzard followed shortly and got out of the water, still naked. Not looking away this time, I watched as the water dripped from her smooth and flawless skin. Her hair was down and heavily drenched, but it was still as perfect as ever. She realized I was eyeing her up and down and she immediately dried herself and manifested her clothes before pouting cutely. HMPH. The audacity to ogle at me like that after what you just did. You've got quite the nerve, Rimuru-kun, she said, trying to sound annoyed, but I could easily tell that she wasn't serious. Hey, and only I'm allowed to do that, I declared boldly with a smirk. Velzard was taken aback and her face turned red for the umpteenth time that night. She pouted but then quickly ran up to me and wrapped her arm around mine, which surprised me quite a bit. Without saying anything more, both of us exited the hot spring and began walking back home, with the time almost nearing midnight. It seems like I'm winning more of my teasing battles against Velzard. In all seriousness though, I'm not so sure how I truly feel about her, and the same probably goes for her too. We've been growing closer and closer ever since she moved to Tempest and became my supervisor. She's been executing that role perfectly and has guided me immensely in my growth as a ruler and as a combatant. Outside of work, we enjoy each other's company a lot and hang out around the city exploring all kinds of different places. In both of my lives, I've never once felt in love, and I'm not really sure how it even feels. Sure, I've had crushes and admired people here and there. I even tried my hand at confessing my feelings a few times, but nothing ever went far. My relationship with Velzard is a strange one, but I don't dislike it, and in fact, I actually like it. Despite her quirky and sometimes scary personality, she's someone I've been able to get along with. First as an acquaintance, and then now as a close friend. I should really sort out my feelings and determine if this is just shock from my first experience, or if I genuinely do hold feelings for her. I hope Velzard does the same as well, since her teasing started as just that. However, her teasing evolved gradually, and even I could tell that it developed into something more. Despite being eons old, she too has no experience regarding romantic love or relationships. These are all most likely new experiences for her, so she needs to sort out her thoughts and feelings eventually. Regardless of what ends up being our relationship in the future, I am certain that it will only get more interesting from here on out.